Today I'm going to talk about philosophy. When you look at most philosophers, what they're talking about is the meaning of life. Now, what I'm going to question today is whether they've actually been asking the right question. Have they been looking at the bees when they should have been looking at the hive? Man is a social animal. When we started off, we worked within the family and possibly the tribe as our unit. The mechanisms within a tribe or a family evolve into a being of itself. Over the years, what we've seen is that society that we started off as a family, then as a tribe, has become ever larger and ever more complex. So that family, tribe, nation. We can also look at super societies, such as religions. And of course, for the last few centuries, we've had another sort of society, which is the corporation. I will contend that it is the societies that determine the behaviour of humans, and that those societies have actually very similar mechanisms within them to help them achieve their aims. It is easier to accept that it is the society that determines the human when we look at the man-made societies of religions and of corporations. Here you can see that society seeks to control the humans to ensure that the society itself thrives and survives. I find it quite interesting that many of these societies are apparently immortal, certainly long-lived. You have nations that have survived over many centuries and millennia, and indeed a lot of our religions are well over 1,000 years old and don't seem to be dying. It is my view that all of these societies actually only have one aim, and that is to survive. And that while they may have founding principles, those principles will be abandoned if it means that society won't survive. And you can see that occurring many times when businesses and religions pivot on a particular issue, move to something else. As humans, there is something that we need to understand about all of these societies, and that is those societies are very selfish. They will abandon any of its individuals to ensure its survival. We've seen this in the Society of Nations. Well, they send thousands, even millions of people to war to preserve the nation. We have it in religions, with the Crusades and the Holy Wars. You'd have thought that the societies would seek to preserve its component parts, but that isn't the case. They are selfish. Another behaviour of all these societies is that they evolve. They don't stay still. If they are threatened, they will change their behaviour to neutralise that threat. They use their individuals to adapt, to test, and to change in the way it goes. It is almost as if the hive works as an intelligent being, trying, sorting, and replicating good behaviour and killing bad behaviour. One of the things that evolves very quickly within most societies is error correction. This is where a society creates rules and enforces them to ensure that errant individuals or outside threats can be neutralised efficiently. You can see these rules in most of the societies. Perhaps the first one that we know, the nation has always got a law about treason working against the state. Religions have rules about heretics. Generally speaking, there's also enforcement behind those rules. And when it comes to heresy and treason, the enforcement is really quite severe. There are occasions when a society becomes unstable. It either becomes too big for its mechanisms, or it has an outside threat, or indeed an internal threat. It is only when a hive is unstable that it will possibly die, but more likely it will split. In real beehives, you get it where a hive will swarm and split into several different swarms to develop. Quite often, when a society is unstable, what can happen is it can split into many parts, and each of the individuals go off and form small groups, which then rapidly evolve to produce a new society or a new set of societies. You can see this in revolutions in particular, where typically a revolution will spawn many small sects and groups, but over a relatively short period, those groups will merge, die, kill each other, until you get a new stable society. Unlike bees, humans become a part of multiple societies. You're part of a nation, you're part of a corporation, you're part of a family, you're part of a religion. This is very unusual. What is really difficult to understand is that humans are able to be part of multiple societies when there is inherent conflict between those societies. You can be part of a religion and a nation, and they may have very different objectives that conflict. Humans are able to separate their behaviour in one society from the behaviour in another. How can a religious person possibly work for a tobacco company knowing that they are killing people? It's remarkable, and I believe is worth investigation. Having said that, typically where the societies are very similar, it is almost impossible, even for humans, to be part of both. You can't be a good Christian and a good Muslim. You can't be a good citizen of one country and a good citizen of the neighbour. Those conflicts, when they get particularly harsh, can't be resolved. One of the explanations why typically people aren't allowed to have two jobs with two companies with very similar objectives. As I said, one of the key things that evolves within a complex system is error correction, making sure that individuals do not verge from the objective of the whole society. When people look at these societies, these systems, people often see what looks like waste. Typically, this is the error correction. So what you've got to bear in mind is that error correction doesn't actually contribute to achieving the objective. What it does is make sure you don't waste resources on other objectives. So the classic one is administration. Having people working to count the money, to process the invoices. What they're there to do is to make sure that the resources, the money in that case, doesn't go to objectives away from the objective of the society. And there's a whole lot of these error correction processes going on within a society. There are some pathological problems with error correction, one of which is what I will call autoimmune disease. This is where the error correction, or the resources needed to do the error correction, actually exceed the resources that would be lost if the error correction wasn't there. We see this in a body with autoimmune diseases, but within an organisation, you'll often see it where the administration completely uses up all the resources for the organisation. And they just get a bureaucracy that just gets ever bigger and bigger. We can certainly see that in some of the societies that we have in public administration in the UK, in my view. With societies evolving over time, typically they evolve ever more error correction. And it can get to the point where that error correction becomes a burden and you need to reset. And this could be an argument that humans and animals die. It's that the burden of error correction within our bodies gets so high that that society is better off replenishing the raw material of individuals from a new source rather than maintaining the human or the individual. So I hope here that what I've shown you is that humans, when you look at it from a philosophical point of view, are actually defined by the societies that they are within, and that the idea of a meaning of life is actually a meaning of what is my role within these super societies. I will talk some more about the discipline which is called complex systems and indicate that there are many other systems very similar to societies that behave the same and can be understood using very similar ideas as to what we've started here today.